Hey, hey, hey! Welcome, everyone. I need to add some sound to that clip. I keep forgetting that I forgot to add sound originally, so I apologize. Hey, Happy Place Camping, you were first. Hello, Thrifty Angela. Uncle Lisa's Productions, hello, hello. Papa Drew, hello. Sorry, my mouse is moving extra slow today. Hey, Hitch Up in Tow, how are you? How is everybody's Friday going? Are we all having a good Friday? Excited for the weekend? I am excited because I have a lazy weekend ahead of me. All I'm going to do is put up my Halloween decorations. So exciting. All right. So I don't know how long this true crime John List story will take. So I'm probably going to get started on it and then we can chit chat at the end if that's okay with everybody. Hitch Up and Toe says, I'm good. I have a beer. Thrifty Angela says she's excited. Hey, Shanna Craft. So I was researching like the top craziest or weirdest or twist of story true crime stories, and that's how I ran across this John List story. I had never heard of him before or heard of his crime, and so when I read into it, I was like, oh wow, this is a crazy one. So let's get started on that. And I have some pictures to share too. I'll kind of share those as we go. A matter of fact, yeah, I'm not going to share one just yet, but I'll share some in a little bit. So November 9th, 1971, and again, this is from an article, and I will link the article in my, my brain is moving so slow, it's already jumped into relaxation mode. I'll link it in my description after I get done here. Happy Place says, I've seen documentaries on this one. It's something else. Yeah, it really is. Okay, so it says John List. He committed the almost perfect murder. And November 9th, 1971, Westfield, New Jersey. 46-year-old accountant John List woke up with his children, 13-year-old Frederick, 15-year-old John Jr., and 16-year-old Patricia, just like he did every morning. He sat with them while they ate their breakfast, being careful not to do anything that might make them suspicious. The whole point of his plan, which he had been working on for months, was that his family wouldn't suffer. Things had always been strained in the List family, at least to John. He had met Helen, who was a widow after college. Soon after they began dating, she told him she was pregnant. So John, a devout Lutheran, agreed to marry her. However, after the wedding, she revealed that she had not been pregnant after all. John felt, rightfully so, that he had been tricked, but his religious beliefs would not allow him to break his marriage vows. And while Helen might not have been pregnant before they were married, she wasted no time in getting that way. Within 4 years, Helen and John had 3 children. So I'm going to stop there for just a second. And I have heard stories of people getting pregnant just to trap a guy so many times. And my thought is, how's that going to work when you're not actually pregnant? Like, what the end goal there, you're not actually pregnant. How's that going to work out for you? And like this, it ends in murder. So not a wise plan. But I'm going to go ahead and share a picture here of the family so we can get a better idea. It's a beautiful family. He couldn't break his vows, but he could have premarital loving. Yeah, he couldn't break his vows, but he could have premarital loving and he could murder. Makes a whole lot of sense. All right, well, let me show you what the family looked like here. All right, so this is John List, and then this is Helen, and then we have 15-year-old John Jr. and 13-year-old Frederick. At the time, he was 13 of the murder. And then up here, we have Patricia. Hitchup and Toe said, that's my family picture. All right. Let me get back over here. All right. I didn't organize these very well for sharing. I apologize. I'm going to share one more picture of these kids. Here we go. I mean, the two boys are smiling so big and they look so happy and just innocent as all get out. Now, the girl looks a little bit troubled, but, I mean, if parents didn't like each other and all that was going on, I guess that would be how you would look. I don't know, but these are the victims, the 3 children. Is she cross-eyed? No, she's not cross-eyed. All right, so go on. This put an immense pressure on John to provide for his family, but he couldn't seem to hold down a job. While the quality of his work had never been an issue, he was meticulous and hardworking. He was often let go because he just rubbed his bosses and coworkers the wrong way. Intuition that he's a murderer? I don't know. Something about John List was off-putting in a way that was hard to pin down. So when he landed a job as a vice president of a bank in New Jersey, it seemed their problems were over. Helen insisted that John purchase her a dream home, a sprawling 19-room mansion named Breeze Knoll that was the most expensive house in the most expensive part of town. They couldn't really afford such an extravagant place, but rather than risk a confrontation, John went to his mother, Alma, to ask for a loan. I gotta stop again. Now, this woman told him that she was pregnant to trick him into marrying her. And then he marries her out of commitment, right? And he stays married because he's a Lutheran. And then she demands a 19-room mansion dream home. This lady was something. All right. Let me show you what the house looked like. The home was beautiful. I'm going to show you the front of it first. 19 rooms. Can you imagine? They have big ears, Papa Drew said. Hold on. Here we go. This is the house. Hey, Ford man. Breaking news, the president has boarded Marine One and has been taken to the hospital. Ah, interesting. Sir D'Angelo said, I'd be like, hell no. Happy Place said, I'd demand a maid too. Right? I can't believe she had the cojones to demand a mansion. Let me trick a guy into marrying me and then make him buy me a 19-room sprawling mansion. And I'm going to get an aerial view. Because this house from the front, it looked big, but not huge. But check out how big this house actually is. The place is huge. It is huge, huge. All right. All right, we'll keep going. While John's late father had been the more traditional, distant type, John and his mother were always close. Friends said Alma doted on her only child, so she lent him the money he needed, and in exchange, she got to live in a self-contained apartment on the 3rd floor of the mansion. That had been 6 years ago. So the mansion had its own mother-in-law quarters, which was pretty cool. Papa Drew said, well, I could find a place to sleep where no one was snoring. All right. Since then, everything had gone downhill. In less than a year, he was fired from the bank job, again due to his personality clashes. Rather than tell his family what happened and admit failure, he continued to get dressed and go to work every day. He would drive to the train station and ride it a few stops, get off, and then return on a different train. He did eventually find another low-paying job, which he also lost, and another and another. His income was not keeping pace with his expenses, and he had begun skimming money from his mother's accounts. By 1971, he was bankrupt. This presented a deep moral crisis for the devout Lutheran, who believed that poverty itself was a sin. Okay, hold on. Premarital sex is not a sin. Murder is not a sin. But poverty is a sin? Divorce is a sin and poverty is a sin. I am blown away. Mother-in-law rooms, what could be worse? Yeah, Thrifty Angela. So murder is okay? All right, here we go. On top of that, he had 3 teenagers who were, in his mind, turning more towards the sinful culture of 1970s America. He was particularly worried about Patricia. She had expressed a desire to go into acting, which John believed was an especially corrupt profession. Hey, Tinks. There were even rumors she was dabbling in witchcraft and experimenting with marijuana. Oh no, not the wacky leaves. The wacky lettuce. That's what it is. All right. But that was not even the worst thing tearing the List family apart. Happy Place said, I wonder if this is Lutheran or just his beliefs. I don't know. It's probably a mixture. Driving in late, just got a signal. Oh, that's okay. Hey, Nomadic Hippie. Gluttony is a sin, so no more cake for Papa Drew. This dude is backwards, so you could do it a lot, just better be making bacon. All right. But that was not even the worst thing tearing the List family apart. Helen's health was deteriorating rapidly, thanks to a terrible secret she had hidden from John for years. Not long after they moved to New Jersey, she began experiencing blackouts and falling down. The vision in her right eye was going. She was drinking heavily and had become dependent on tranquilizers. In the winter of 1968 to 69, tests revealed she had syphilis, which she had contracted from her first husband. This woman sounds like a winner. I know she's the victim in this story eventually, but she tricked him into marrying her. She had syphilis from her first husband. She demanded a mansion. I'm so blown away. All right. To make matters worse, Helen, either from embarrassment or mental instability, had stopped going to church. Thrifty Angela said she started it. STD, pot, hot sex, it's like the after party city. All right. John had been silently churning all of this around in his mind for months. Going bankrupt was inevitable. However, this would put the family in poverty, dependent on charity and welfare, a completely unacceptable option according to John. My ex-girlfriend tried to trap me saying she was pregnant. When I found out she wasn't, I told her, don't worry, because your younger sister definitely is. Oh, thanks. That's a good one. That's a good comeback. All right. He had considered taking his own life. But again, in his religion, suicide was the one unforgivable sin. As much as he resented his family for the burden they placed on him, he did, in his way, love them. He wanted to know that he would at least have a chance of seeing them again on the other side. Okay. Suicide is the ultimate sin. Murder your whole family and you got a chance to still see them? I'm wondering if this guy wasn't like all mentally stable either. Let's all get Rome candles, a bottle of rum, and bed sheets, get drunk, and tie each other. All right. He was determined that there was only one way to save his family from the humiliation and sinfulness of poverty. Much like he did everything in life, he had worked out a plan in meticulous detail. Thrifty Angela, this guy is a whack job. Yeah. Once the children left for school, Helen woke up and came downstairs for her customary morning coffee. John made a little chit-chat with her, then came up behind her with a 9mm automatic pistol his father had given him. He shot her once in the side of the head, killing her instantly. He placed her body on a sleeping bag and dragged her into the grand ballroom, where he laid her out beneath the stained glass ceiling. Then he went upstairs to his 84-year-old mother's apartment. Alma was fixing her own breakfast. John, feeling like a Judas, gave her a kiss. She asked him about the noise she heard downstairs. John gave her a vague non-answer. He then put the gun to her left temple and pulled the trigger. Her body was too heavy for him to drag all the way to the ballroom, so he tossed a towel over her face and left her on the floor where she had fallen. Back downstairs, he cleaned up the surprising amount of blood in the kitchen. Then he proceeded with the next steps of his dark plan. He wrote letters and made phone calls to his kids' teachers, his boss, and others, stating that the family had to leave to go tend to a sick relative in North Carolina. Then he went to the post office to mail the letters and stop mail delivery. He also arranged to stop their milk and newspaper deliveries. Finally, he dropped by the bank and cashed in his mother's $2,000 savings bond. Back at Breeze Knoll, he made himself a sandwich and waited for his children to come home. Patricia was the first. She called and told her father she was feeling ill, so John picked her up from school early. Once they were inside, John shot her in the jaw with his antique .22 pistol, a souvenir he had kept from his time in the war. He then dragged her body into the ballroom and laid her out near her mother. Ketchup and Toast says, slow down. What do I do after cleaning up the blood? All right, next home was Fred. John shot him the same way he had the others, and he laid his body out next to Patricia. John Jr. had a soccer game after school that day. John Sr. drove to the field and watched him play, then gave him a ride home. Once inside the kitchen, John Sr. shot him in the back of the head. But unlike the other members of the List family, who dropped instantly, John Jr. struggled. John Sr. shot him 9 more times before dragging him into the ballroom with the rest of his family. Yeah, this isn't how to. You don't want to follow this guy's lead. Tinks, my girlfriend asked me to talk dirty to her, so I said, your breath stinks and you badly need to wash your feet. All right. He then said a prayer from the Lutheran hymnal over their bodies. John cleaned up the blood as best he could. Then he sat down at the table and ate dinner. So far, he's not had a problem filling his tummy. So he had a sandwich in between killing his mom and wife and his kids. And now he's sitting down and having dinner while his family's dead in the ballroom. Unreal. John cleaned up the blood as best he could, then sat down at the table and ate dinner. When he was done, he washed his dishes and set them to dry in the drainer. He went to bed and slept, as he later admitted, better than he had in years. The next morning, he turned down the air conditioning to preserve their bodies. He turned on every light in the house and turned the radio on to his favorite classical music station, hoping to trick any would-be intruders into thinking there were people home. He really thought this out. He turned the air conditioning down. He wrote all those letters to the school. He turns all the lights on so it looks like people are home. I mean, he really, really thought this out, which is creepy. He then sat down and penned a 5-page confession letter to his pastor. Finally, he searched out every family picture in the house and he cut his image out of them. Then John List walked out the door and locked it behind him. He drove to John F. Kennedy International Airport and he dropped off his car. Then he took the bus back into the city. From there, he took a train to Denver. There, he applied for a Social Security card under the name of Robert Peter Clark. He got a job as a short-order cook and started his new life. Meanwhile, Breeze Knoll sat still, empty of life. As the weeks passed, the lights began to burn out, one by one, leaving the mansion dark, only the sound of classical music playing over the speakers. Because the Lists were so reclusive, it took nearly a month before anyone started asking any questions. By the first week of December, Patricia's drama teacher was concerned about her prolonged absence. He said he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong at the List home. He found John List to be a strange man, but it was something that Patricia had confided in him earlier that worried him. She had told him that she was worried her father was going to kill the whole family. The drama teacher convinced another teacher to go with him to the List home to check on them. Hey, civil servant. Long time no see. American Murder. I have not seen it yet. I have it marked. Tinks, this is a real story. Okay. The drama teacher convinced another teacher to go with him to the List home to check on them. Hey, Linda Barker. Yeah, she knew. Remember how sad she looked in the picture that I showed earlier? It's crazy. Seeing strange people walking around the house and peering in the windows in the dark, some neighbors called the police. Officers George and Charles were the first to arrive. The officers knocked and looked through the windows, but couldn't find anything out of place. At the neighbors' urging, they found an unlocked window and climbed through. The house was almost entirely dark, except for a single upstairs light that threw long shadows over everything. The air inside was frigid, and creepiest of all, haunting funeral music was playing throughout the house. Following their flashlights through the cold, empty home, they came to a set of curtains partitioning off the ballroom. As soon as the officers parted the curtains, they were hit with the smell of human decomposition. Inside, neatly laid out on sleeping bags on the floor, were the bodies of Helen, Patricia, Frederick, and John Jr. I haven't watched your streaming, Yonks. Anyway, watch that doc if you live. Yeah, I'll definitely watch it, Sybil, for sure. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. All right, inside, neatly laid out on sleeping bags on the floor, were the bodies of Helen, Patricia, Frederick, and John Jr. Now, this picture is very old, but it is a little graphic, so turn your heads if you do not want to see this, but it is a picture of how he laid them out, which I think is important also because I really don't think the man was mentally stable. We've kind of heard how much he loved his family and his kind of backwards ways of thinking that this was better than that. But when he laid them out together as a family and very carefully and kind of in a caring way, it almost looks like. So if you don't want to see, turn away. But I will show one picture of how he laid them out after they were passed away. So he laid them very close to each other and covered them up in their sleeping bags, and it looked like he, I don't know, it looked like he was doing it in like a caring way, if that makes sense for a murderer, but I don't know. Okay. Upon searching the rest of the house, they found John's confession letter and the guns he had used to kill them. Following the instructions in the letter, they found Alma's body upstairs. Papa Drew says he's the boogeyman. They immediately put out a nationwide APB for List. Soon they found his car parked at John F. Kennedy Airport, but could find no record of his taking a flight. There were no more leads, no clue as to where List might have gone. John List was in the wind. Yeah, Thrifty Angel, I guess that's what I was trying to say, is it made sense in his head, which is sad and scary. And I just can't even imagine what that family went through. Like, the mom was no better. The daughter thought the dad was going to kill them, and the dad had this very elaborate, insane plan. So, very scary. The following August, the List home caught fire in what was widely believed to be arson. This part is the kicker in this whole story. So the following August, the List home caught fire in what was widely believed to have been arson. Afterwards, it was discovered that a stained glass ceiling in the ballroom was signed by Louis Comfort Tiffany. Tiffany Company? Making it worth upwards of $100,000. Enough to have solved all of List's money problems with plenty left over. So in this mansion, in this home, he had this stained glass ceiling he could have sold, and none of this would have had to happen. Over the years, the police followed up on every tip, sighting, and lead, but they all led nowhere. The police and the press did their best to keep the case in the public eye, publishing and broadcasting the story on every significant anniversary. The 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, the 10th. They even tried to get the case featured on Unsolved Mysteries to no avail. Sorry, I need to close this out. One moment, please. All right. In 1989, the List case was nearly 18 years cold. Another TV show called America's Most Wanted had been on the air for a little over a year and was already a hit for the Fox network. Didn't he own the house? 100,000 isn't that much. I think the 100,000, he was buying the home. I don't know if he had paid it off, but 100,000 would have been enough to get him out of debt for sure. And this was way back when. So 100,000 back then, you know what I mean? Wife probably wouldn't have let him sell it. She was all about appearance. That's true too, Happy Place. All right. So in 1989, the List case was nearly 18 years cold. Another TV show called America's Most Wanted had been on the air for a little over a year and was already a hit for the Fox network. Captain Frank of the Union County Prosecutor's Office thought this would be the perfect vehicle to get the List case out to a wider audience and hopefully bring John List to justice. However, the show initially turned them down. The case was too cold and too old. Until John Walsh caught wind of the case. Some of you may only know Walsh as a true crime TV host who occasionally opinions on Twitter, but Walsh got his start in true crime TV hosting AMW in 1988 thanks to victims' right advocacy following the murder of his six-year-old son, Adam. Walsh, understandably, has some pretty strong feelings about List. He called him a son of a bitch, a coward, and a child killer. Walsh was determined to bring List to justice, but they needed an image of him as he would have looked in 1989. So Walsh called a forensic sculptor, Frank Bender, to create an age-progressed bust of List. In addition to using the standard facial reconstruction measurements that most forensics anthropologists use, he also reached out to a forensic psychologist, Richard Walter, to get a detailed psychological profile of List. He also looked at pictures of List's parents to see how their faces had aged. Using all that information, along with his own intuition, he created a bust of what List, now in his 60s, would look like. But it would not be complete without his glasses. Knowing List's personality, Bender scoured thrift stores to find just the right frames that someone like List would likely wear. Conservative with thick black frames. Once he found the pair he thought would be a good fit, the bust was finished. The case of John List aired on AMW May 21, 1989. An estimated 22 million people saw the programming, including true crime fans Wanda Flannery and her daughter Eva Mitchell in Denver. Even before the bust was shown, Flannery and Mitchell were sure their former neighbor Bob Clark fit the description. Soft-spoken, always wears a suit, an accountant, a devout Lutheran. When Bender's forensic bust was shown on the screen, they were stunned. It looked just like Clark, right down to the glasses, so Flannery called the tip line. I'm going to show you real quick. This is crazy how much they nailed this. All right. This one on the left here is the sculpture they did. This one on the right is a picture of him. Can you imagine? They did this off of age progression, photos of what his parents would look like, his personality from a psychologist. They took all of that and made this right here. And it looks exactly like him. Exactly like him. Even the eyebrows. And the only difference is the mouth just a little bit, but those age progression artists are very talented. Yeah, right? It's crazy to me. I was like, that is the first one that I've seen that is spot on. I'm sure there are other ones that exist, but that one is spot on. I got another one that shows the bust and him a little bit better. And it still looks crazy. Here we go. So obviously this is the bust. It doesn't have a body or anything. And then this is him. And that just blows my mind away, how close they are. The eyes and everything, I don't know. It's kind of creepy. Kind of creepy. All right. Alrighty, back to the story here. 11 days later, the FBI showed up at Bob Clark's home in Richmond, Virginia. His new wife, Dolores, told them that he was at work. So the agents showed up at the office where Clark was working as an accountant. Remember, the psychologist said that the guy would be dressed like an accountant, right? He was working as an accountant. That's crazy. So the agents showed up at the office where Clark was working as an agent, or as an accountant. One of the agents said it was striking how much he looked like Bender's sculpture. They asked him if he was Bob Clark, and he said yes. Then they asked him if he was John List. He denied it. He continued to deny it even after his prints were found to be the matching prints taken from List when he applied for a handgun permit. List was arrested and charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder. His trial began April 2nd, 1990, and 18 and a half years in 1990, 18 and a half years after his killings. List was diagnosed by the court psychiatrist with obsessive-compulsive disorder, which his defense said made him only guilty of second-degree murder. I don't know how obsessive-compulsive disorder would cause that, but all right. On April 11th, after 9 hours of deliberation, the jury found him guilty on all 5 counts of first-degree murder. He was given the maximum sentence allowed at the time, 5 consecutive life terms. When his sentence was read aloud, the courtroom erupted in applause. One person, however, wasn't as happy with the verdict: Walsh. He wanted List to get the death penalty. Many in law enforcement, along with Walsh, credit Bender's amazingly accurate bust with cracking one of the oldest cases at the time. In fact, Walsh kept that bust in his office for many years. Bender sadly passed away in 2011 from mesothelioma. I know I just messed that word up. I think y'all got what I was saying, though, because I'm not going to try to say it again. List later appealed his case, claiming that he had been suffering from PTSD from his combat experience in World War II. But a federal appeals court rejects his claims. At this point, any speculation about his mental state is moot. But I would like to put forward a theory I haven't seen discussed yet. I believe John List was on the autism spectrum. Let me be clear on 2 points. First, the vast majority of people on the spectrum are nonviolent, so I'm not saying autism made him homicidal. Second, being on the spectrum still would not excuse or justify what he did. Why do I think he was on the spectrum? Look at what his coworkers and neighbors said about him. He was a hard worker, focused, meticulous, traits commonly found in people on the spectrum. He was soft-spoken, polite, pathologically avoided conflict, yet he seemed strange, odd, and off-putting. This sounds very much like someone on the spectrum. Their odd behaviors and seemingly lack of social skills are probably the most well-known symptoms of the disorder. The fact he was diagnosed with OCD even fits with that. The symptoms of OCD and autism are so similar that they are commonly indistinguishable even to doctors and psychiatrists. But it was watching his interviews that convinced me. Before speaking to psychiatrists, police, or television hosts, he would carefully, even fussively, arrange many and any items on the table. Everything had to be just so. His manner seemed flat, emotionless, his tone of voice barely changing. Having raised a son on the spectrum, it was striking to me how closely he fit the profile. But this is all speculation. We'll never know what truly went on in his mind. List died in prison on March 21st, 2008 from pneumonia. He was 82 years old. So I don't know about the being on the spectrum part of that, but it does. I mean, what the author in this article was saying definitely does kind of make more sense than the OCD, and the fact that he never wanted to have the conflicts, like he was saying. And yeah, like Linda Barker said, autism wasn't well known then. I don't think there was much mental illness really known. I mean, like Nettie and I did that haunting story on that psychiatric hospital, and if you were sad, they were throwing you in an ice bath and treating you like you were insane just from being sad. So I don't know. Whatever the case, nothing he can do, no mental disorder, nothing would justify those murders. Thrifty Angela says, he definitely could have been. I don't believe it made him kill, but it didn't help. Yeah, I don't think it made him kill. I think more than anything, his wife probably led him down that path. Had he married a nice, caring woman who wasn't lying and conniving and tricking him, he probably wouldn't have headed down that path, to be honest. Oh, I was wondering what you were talking about, Papa Drew. No, the Febreze is supposed to be on the other side. Wow, you know my background really well, Papa Drew. Shanna Craft says, I agree with Walsh. Oh, about the death penalty? Yeah, me too. Happy Place says, I think it's crazy they chose almost identical glasses. Right? And the vendor went to thrift stores specifically to find those glasses. So he knew, like, somehow he knew that's what he would be wearing. But I guess back then there weren't as many styles to choose from as there are now. So that might have made it easier. Papa True says, I look at stuff. The wife must have been not all there either. Or she was just evil. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe she was just evil, or maybe she wasn't all there. But she had been married before and her husband died. So I don't know. Gonna watch Comedian before I go to sleep. Eye candy was good though. Until the next time. Good night, Tinks. Thanks for joining us. Maybe he didn't want to pay the full price for the glasses. Yeah, I think, I don't know, like, didn't the military issue the same glasses for everyone? Like the same style? And they were kind of similar to that style? Happy Place says, I think the wife was just selfish. She wanted someone to take care of her and she wanted to live above their means. Yeah, I think I agree with that. Because, I mean, she may have suffered with mental illness of some sort. I don't know. Depression, anxiety, I don't know. But she had to have her wits enough about her to know to trick a man into marrying her, to lie about her syphilis. I mean, she had to have somewhat of brains to come up with the idea of tricking him so much. Sane or insane, if you are a danger to people, we need to do something. Yeah, I'm surprised, but I guess, again, this was back in the day when the daughter told her teacher she thought her dad was going to kill the family. Why didn't the teacher, like, look into that? That's an odd thing for a kid to say. For a kid to go up to their teacher and be like, yeah, I think my dad's going to kill my whole family. Save the children. Like nowadays that would be investigated, but maybe because it was back then it wasn't. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Again, though, like, I keep telling myself, I look at this story and I think, wow, how could he plan it so well and execute it so well? How could the wife trick him as much as she did? Why didn't the teacher do something? They were dead in the house for a month before anyone found them. So I look at all that and I'm like, this is insane. But then I remember it was way back when. So I'm guessing that type of thing was fewer and far between, and less likely to actually happen. But I could be wrong. So let me scroll up here. All right, so we have New Horizons coming on next. I think the campfire is going to happen tonight. I don't know. Let me look and see if she has a thumbnail up. I haven't had a chance to talk with her today. But I believe New Horizons is up next. And then Sunday, I already have. Happy Place says, you stretched that story almost the whole hour. That's what I'm trying to do, is make the stories be just about an hour and then leave the end 10 minutes or so to chit chat. Linda Barker says, there are probably new laws and policies to compel teachers to report that conversation to Children's Protective Services. Yeah, I know there's definitely laws now. I wonder if there was anything back then. I'll have to research that. I wonder what kind of laws they had back then and what would have been constituted as, like, severe enough to report. Fifty Angela says, that was a good story. I never heard of it. Happy Place. It was great. I mean, I knew the story, but it was a real interesting one. We as a species are terrifying. Hitch up and toe, I would agree with you. I am afraid of people in general. You hear more and more. Stories are getting closer and closer to home, these horrific stories and murders and kidnappings and all of that. And it's terrifying. All right, Happy Place said there is a campfire tonight at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's awesome. And on Sunday, Hauntings with Phoebe and Nettie, we're going to be doing the Viscala, I think that's how you say it, Axe Murderer's house. We're going to be talking about the history of the house and the story that went along with it. So, and I already have the thumbnail up for that if you want to click it as a reminder. But that'll be Nettie and me on Sunday. So that'll be fun. Happy Place said, yay, Axe Murderer house. I'm at 23, when is 8 p.m.? Oh, now you're doing military time on me, Hitch Up and Toe. I don't think I can still do military time. 8 p.m. would be 3 hours from now. Or no, 2 hours from now. Sorry. So, yeah. It's so freaking hot. It's cold here. It's getting chilly here, and I love it. Absolutely love it. I love fall weather. Oh, I was going to show this. So I got a postcard in the mail today, totally unexpected, and it made my heart so happy. Trying to get it where you guys can see it. It's such a pretty place. And so this place was fun. It was inside a state park. It has a griddle at your table, and you can make food. And it is the old Spanish sugar mill in the state recreation area at DeLoyne Springs, Florida. It's now the home of the famous old Spanish sugar mill, grist mill, and natural food bakery, and the unique do-it-yourself restaurant. I don't know if I can stay up till 3 a.m. Yeah, I don't think I could do 3 a.m. either. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty late. Anyway, now I want to go to this place. I was so thankful to get this, though. It made my heart so happy. Our Epic RV Adventure, Shelly, sent me that. I thought that was so very sweet. All right, so can we go ahead and drop New Horizons link in the chat, and we can head on over there and raid her. And then next Friday, I will have another true crime story. I don't know which one yet. There's a couple of them that I'm trying to decide between, but thank you all so much for joining me tonight. Thank you, Happy Place, for dropping that link for me. I appreciate it. If you see Nettie, make sure to tell her congratulations. She is officially retired now, by the way. But I really appreciate everybody coming. It always makes me happy. It makes my heart happy, and I love chatting with you all. So thank you, and I will see you all later on. Wishing you much kindness and much love. Bye for now.